The box office top 10 this week. At Umpty 7, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, which has done fantastically well. I mean, it's not there now because it's clearly, it's been on TV and it's sort of on Netflix. It's on iPlayer, I would think. So you have lots of ways to see it.
It was a huge hit when it went out on Christmas Day. Apparently, it was like one of the most watched things. It was absolutely massive, enormous audience. So congratulations to Nick Park and to Merlin and to everyone at Aardman for once again going, this is how you do it.
Number 11, Nickel Boys.
I really like Nickel Boys. Your interview was absolutely fascinating with the director.
Ramel Ross.
I do think
an interesting guy.
Ramel Ross, yeah. It was what was great about that interview was he talked really well about the process involved. And yet when you watch the film, you're not overly conscious of it. You just feel like it just reaches out from the screen and grabs you by the heartstrings. I thought it's a really fine piece of work.
There is one thing that I had written down. I've still got my notes here that I wanted to talk to Ramel Ross about. And it's bizarre how this sequence has stayed with me, but it's not really important to the whole story, but there's a time lapse sequence which is filmed out of a boxcar on the railroad. And you see this, I think, 2 or 3 times. And it's really stuck with me. And apparently Ramel Ross, to get this right, was shipped himself from Rhode Island to Alabama in a box. So over about 36 hours, 48 hours or something, just to get that bit right. Okay. Anyway, we didn't get there, but it doesn't surprise me having spoken to him. But it was a fascinating conversation. Do you think that's a disappointing appearance at 11? It's 18 in America.
I mean, look, it was never going to be a huge hit. It's had fantastic reviews. It's had really, really fantastic reviews, and deservedly so. I mean, I suppose over the Christmas period, people were watching blockbusters, really, weren't they? I mean, yeah,
and it's not a blockbuster, so
no, it's not. But it's a very fine film.
Conclave is at number 10,
which of course is lots of great acting, brilliant sound design, as you said in that interview, because it is. I watched it again over the last week, and it is true that you really can hear the shoes clicking on the marble floors, because of course it's a set anyway. And great performances and a really well written. There we go. The basis of this film is that it's got a really good script, unlike some other films.
Really good script and fabulous fabric. So Conclave is at 10, 22 in America. Number 8 in America, number 9 here is Gladiator II.
I was on the train down to Penzance yesterday. It's like 5.5 hours. And one of the women working as a conductor thing said, I just have to ask you, should I go see Gladiator II? And I said, well, it's preposterous and it's got sharks. And she went, oh, I think I'll go then.
Yes. But I think that's the right answer. So you're right to say that. It's preposterous, it's got sharks, but you'll have a good time. Paddington in Peru is at number 8.
Weakest of the Paddington films, but it's still a pretty high bar.
Better Man at 7.
It's really interesting. Better Man has had some very, very good. I mean, some people I know think it's like one of the best films they've seen in living memory. It's real. I mean, I think some people have absolutely loved it. I like it very much. I think that the fact that Robbie is portrayed by a CGI chimpanzee in the film works really well, and you forget about it within 5 minutes. I mean, it is overlong, and it is massively indulgent, but it does work, and that's really remarkable.
Wicked at 6.
Runaway hit. Love it, love it, love it. Can't wait for the second one, although we have to wait. If we keep saying Happy New Year to each other,
yes,
we'll probably still be saying Happy New Year when Wicked 2 comes out.
Moana 2 is at number 5. It's number 4 in America.
It's okay. Was originally put together to go straight to streaming, made it into cinemas. I'm sure a load of people saw it and enjoyed it over the holiday.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is at 4.
Did very well, surprisingly, because,
We Live in Time is a new entry at number 3.
Oh, have we got any emails about We Live in Time?
Yes, we have, but I was just going to you first.
No, that's fine. No, I was just wondering whether, because, I mean, we reviewed it on the show. I think there are some really good things about it. I really believe in the relationship between the two central characters, between the character Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. And I think the way that the time shifting of it, the shuffling of time, works very intelligently, because what it means is that it's not just the narrative doesn't just proceed from love to tragedy. It mixes all those elements together. So I think it's a very well constructed and directed film. But the thing that really wins it over is the fact that it has those two performances. I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means. I think there are things wrong with it, but I think it is affecting. What are the emailers?
Do you think there's anyone else apart from myself who, when hearing Florence Pugh, hears? Mm-hmm. So what I hear in my head is Florence Pugh, Barley McGrew, Cuthbert Dibble Grubb. Is anyone else, do you think?
I've never thought that before, but now I will not be able to get it out of my head.
Merrick says, gents, really enjoyed last week's episode. My interest was piqued by the review for the film where a mysterious stranger sucks the life out of their quivering virginal victims. I am, of course, talking about We Live in Time. It's an odd proposition. It posits a world where glamorous, bisexual, Michelin-starred chefs prey on hapless Weetabix salesmen, and yet through the crackling chemistry of Pugh and Garfield, some well-drawn characters and witty original dialogue, it all seemed oddly convincing and endearing, until about halfway through the film, a major WTF moment that is revealed to have Ice Skater suddenly terminally fancy MasterChef. This is completely deranged. What could have been a poignant, low-key tale of charismatic couple going through catastrophe suddenly became Rocky with an icing bag. It completely squandered any audience goodwill and, more importantly, undercut the two fantastic performances by its leads. That from Merrick Angle, this from Henry. I find it incredibly rare that a film can strike a chord with such accuracy. There was so much to relate to on a personal level in terms of our own circumstances and the intricacies with which the characters navigate overlapping life stages and challenges. The film tackles themes of love, family, ambition, sorrow, tragedy, comedy, and joy in a way that feels so natural. Admittedly, without the frame of reference specifically to Florence Pugh's character struggling with cancer, I don't think that's much of a spoiler.
No,
thank you. I have to say it was all dealt with note perfectly. The script felt natural, the acting expressive but never over the top, and the jumping back and forth through time was done in a way that never got irritating or tiresome. No mean feat. Perhaps the only part of the film that was hard to believe was how much Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, both otherwise excellent, as you'd expect, seemed to be enjoying their spin on a fairground carousel. Laughter, tears, and everything in between was experienced during the runtime. I would highly recommend this to anyone who seeks out emotionally resonant storytelling delivered by highly skilled filmmakers and actors. And Henry says, P.S. If you're going to read this out, a quick hello to my wonderful wife, Maz, for whom film is such an important and shared passion. And should you read this out, we may well be listening to this in a maternity ward or on a speaker at home trying to get a restless baby to sleep or through headphones during a late night feed. So hello to baby as well as Henry and wife, Maz. There you go.
Congratulations.
Right.
Well, yes.
So We Live in Time is at number 3. It isn't anywhere in America, but maybe it's not.
I think we've now thoroughly covered it, don't you?
Mufasa the Lion King is at number 2.
A weirdly disappointing film. It was your interview with Barry Jenkins was fascinating, and it was interesting hearing him talking about it as a piece of storytelling and finding connections with Moonlight. I'm just not sold on the photorealist animation of singing lions. I'm just not on board with it.
That's number 1 in America. Number 1 here is Nosferatu, which is number 3 in the States. So Charlie goes first. Mark and Simon. Yes, you say yes, Ferratu, which is very, very good. Can I repeat the joke, which isn't mine, but I got off social media, which was Nosferatu, Ferratu, Nos.
Yes, and here's what happened. Yeah. You sent me a text of Nosferatu,
Ferratu, Nos.
Yes, but now you're saying it in that voice. And I sent you back a thing said, no, sorry, I don't get it. And then Simon Poole, who was in this chain, said, Brucey. And I thought he meant Springsteen. And I thought, is there a Bruce Springsteen lyric which goes Nosferatu, Ferratu, Nos?
Yeah.
I had a very strange afternoon trying to figure that out.
It was a listener doing a little bit of Brucey Forsyth.
No, I get it now,
obviously.
but it's just when you say Brucey, I didn't immediately think Forsyth. I thought Bruce.
Anyway,
because
Charlie
of you
says,
and Bruce.
I work at Picture House at Fact in Liverpool, and as a big horror fan and a fan of Robert Eggers' films, I was very much looking forward to the release of Nosferatu this past Wednesday. Unfortunately, our cinema rarely pulls in big crowds for horror films. Still, I expected Nosferatu to do decent, if not spectacular numbers. It's to my delight, then, that so far, we've packed out screenings 4 times a day, including some near sellouts in our biggest screens. If audience sizes keep up for 2 weeks, it will be our cinema's most popular film since Zone of Interest. One colleague even uttered Barbenheimer in relation to the rushes that we've had at the box office and the bar. And it's not just at our place. My brother reported packed out screenings for Nosferatu at his cinema in Finsbury Park. So the two brothers running 2 different cinemas. Would love to know your thoughts on why Nosferatu is managing to pull in such impressive numbers and at such a difficult time generally for cinemas. Perhaps the name recognition of Nosferatu and an opportune release date have something to do with it. But for what it's worth, I think Eggers' name now has pulling power all on its own, especially among younger cinephiles. I do think the date is a help, actually, because it's like, okay, away with all that. Let's go and see something that's just terrifying. And that's what happened.
I absolutely think it's the right time to have released it. I also think that it is one of the films that people think, I need to see this projected, because there's been so much talk about, the way in which it's almost monochrome color, the darkness of the dark scenes. In fact, in Take Two, we're going to be talking about Sesevenon, which again was a film in which the whole thing about seeing it in the cinema, this is partly why the re-release is happening, was so important, because the blacks are so black, and the brightness is so encased in all of that. So I think partly it's because people are thinking, if I'm going to see this film, I need to see it in cinema. Partly it's because, Nosferatu does have name recognition. I'm not sure how big of a deal that is. I think it's because the reviews have been great and the word of mouth has been even better. I know so many people who have seen it and have literally told their friends, it's great, it's terrific, you need to go see it. And Lily Rose Depp is brilliant in it.
An email from Beta in Germany, and keeping our New Year greeting thing going, she says, Frohe Neues Jahr. I am Beta, a long-term listener from Berlin. I recently found a copy of your book, The Movie Doctors, in a charity shop and bought it. I can't believe someone gave it away. How... that's rude. Anyway, I watched Nosferatu. I'm a great fan of the vampire and gothic genre and have seen the original 1922 version, but I did not like this version. I was not moved at all. I was bored. I wasn't scared. The acting was very theatrical, maybe intended. It didn't look like Germany. But then, no, I think that's probably fair. Then random people were addressed as Herr and Frau, and words like Schnaps were used. I am German, so maybe this is very specific criticism. But my main criticism is I found the film to be a bit misogynist. For me, it felt like Eggers was trying to say, look, the female protagonist, she is strong and has the power, but Ellen was just this helpless, whiny little child, as they frequently said. Also, way too much gratuitous nudity. Why did the female leads have to show their breasts unnecessarily? And then both Ellen and Anna, and then there is a spoiler, I didn't like the depiction of gypsies either. So, in gypsies in inverted commas. So I personally didn't see the point in this remake at all, but thumbs up for the rats and the cat. Well, just while we're on the subject, Simon Colebrook and many, many others, with reference to Simon's doubt about travelling from Romania to Germany by boat. The Danube is navigable by riverboat from Germany to Romania, and this has been the fastest way to travel in the early 19th century.
Well, there you go.
Except that up. Fine. It doesn't. Except if you watch that, that's not a river. That is a wide open, roaring sea. So it may well be that was a way to travel down a river, but that's not a river that we've got there, which is fine because in the story it works perfectly well, and they wanted to make it look like the original. Anyway,
look,
very
I loved
good.
I loved it. So, but it's diversity of opinion is always a good thing, and it's always great to hear from people who felt differently about a film. I think it's one of the most exciting things. But I loved it, and I'd happily watch it again.
I imagine if you do live in Germany and in fact are German, that doesn't look like
it'd be slightly different,
like Germany.